بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Surah An-Nur is a beautiful Madani surah. It is the surah of light, referencing the light of guidance. And some of the scholars, they say that it was labeled as Surah An-Nur because it has Ayatun Nur, Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard. And the reason why it is called also Surah An-Nur is because it is the light of guidance. It literally, if someone comprehends and understands and implements the teachings of Surah An-Nur, this surah shall act to this person as a moral light to him throughout his life. Because this person will walk out understanding what is the right from the wrong, understanding the etiquettes of society, understanding the dangers of spreading rumors, understanding the dangers of allowing your gaze to go free and looking at things you're not supposed to look at. And there are many, many teachings that are found throughout the surah. Now the backstory behind the surah, at least a portion of it, goes back to one of the most difficult incidents in the life of the Rasul ﷺ. It wasn't physically painful to him. It was, however, very mentally and psychologically painful to him. And that was Hadithatul Ifk, the slander of our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. And most of us are familiar with the story. But this is why the surah then comes down to teach the Muslims and the entire society around the Muslims what is right and what is wrong in terms of our interactions, and especially when it comes to rumors. So one unique thing that we find about Surah An-Nur is the way that it begins. Suratun anzalnaha wa faradnaha wa anzalna fiha ayatin bayyinatin la'allakum tadhakkarun. That this, you won't find any other surah that really begins like this. This is a surah. We revealed it down, and we are obligating it. And we have revealed clear verses in it, verses, so that you can reflect and you can be reminded. And of the teachings that you will find in Surah An-Nur, for example, the importance of guarding one's modesty, the importance of lowering the gaze, the importance of avoiding, rumors and gossiping, and protecting and preserving people's reputation. And all of these rulings, they came down as a means to protect this ummah. However, what's really important to understand here, the way the surah begins tells you all of these rulings, my friend, they're not optional. If you consider yourself a believer, these rulings of Surah An-Nur are not optional. And I want to fast forward, and today I'm just going to highlight a couple of verses that we recited from Surah An-Nur. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, قُلْ أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول فإن تولوا فإنما عليه ما حمل وعليكم ما حملتم وإن تطيعوه تهتدوا وما على الرسول إلا البلاغ المبين. That this is a commandment to the Rasul ﷺ that tell these people, obey Allah and His Messenger ﷺ. But if you choose to turn away, then He's done His job. He's going to be responsible for whatever He conveyed to you, and you shall be responsible for your actions as well. However, if you choose to follow Him, then you shall obtain guidance. وَإِن تُطِيعُوهُ تَهْتَدُوا. Now on the outside, and all in all, this is a pretty straightforward verse. And it reaffirms one of our core beliefs in Islam, and that is believing in La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That whatever Allah commands it, we do. Whatever the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam tells us to do, we also do. ما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا. Okay, what's the big deal over here? Allah Azza wa Jal here is trying to call out a certain group of people. The context behind these verses is because there was a group of people that would pick and choose what they want to follow from Islam. Whenever they would find benefit from it, they would follow Islam. And they would consider themselves among the Muslims. However, whenever something went against what they believed in, or went against their own tradition, went against their own desires and whims, they're quick to walk away and prioritize their own selves over the teachings of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is very relevant for us today. and especially for my dear youth, this is extremely important. Islam is a complete package. Quran is a complete book. You either take all of it or you leave it. There is no picking and choosing. There is no I like and I don't like when it comes to Quran and Sunnah. This is Islam. You like it, tahtadu. You obey it, you do it, you follow it, you shall obtain guidance. However, if you choose any of that, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْهِ مَا حُمِّلَ وَعَلَيْكُمْ مَا حُمِّلْتُمْ. Be ready to answer for the choices that you have made. You know, the issue arises today to a modern trend that we see, especially around the Muslims in the West. You know, they label it as the progressive Muslims. The progressive Muslims, they're coming to reform the understanding of Islam. So they say that, you know what, Islam is a little bit old. It's over 1,400 years old. And, you know, society today is very different from back then. And nowadays we have internet, we have technology, and we have AI, and the whole world is completely different. So obviously we need to also create an Islam version 2, right? So we can also, you know, adapt to modern times, and so that it attracts people to Islam, and so that it also makes it easier for us to live our lives. If you do this, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْهِ مَا حُمِّلَ وَعَلَيْكُمْ مَا حُمِّلْتُمْ. This is not the way of our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The teachings of Islam are timeless. Whether you're talking about 2026, whether you're talking about 1,400 years from ago, or whether you're talking about 4,400 years in the future, Islam is Islam. It's a full package. You cannot accept parts of it and abandon other parts of it. So we have to be very careful about this. And especially, by the way, you know, and you know, this has become an even worse of an issue today due to the spread of, you know, technology. You know, technology is a very double-ended sword depending on how you use it, right? So nowadays you will easily find, you know, you can easily Google something about Islam. You know, is such a thing halal or haram? And please listen very carefully, especially from my dear youth. You will find something on the internet. Okay? If you Google long enough and you search long enough, anything in Islam shall be made halal for you. Okay? You will find a website that has the word Islam in the website. And it looks Muslim. It has a Muslim look at it as well. And you will find articles written by Allahu A'lam who wrote them. Music Lover 123, right? He comes in and he types a whole article and he tells you, you know what, music is halal. Or you will go on another thread somewhere else in the internet. Alcohol lover will tell you, actually, bro, you know, yes, Allah says alcohol is haram, but it's not meant that way, right? It's just meant in a specific way. But if you do it this way, it's okay. And if you don't do it that way, subhanAllah, I promise you this, my dear youth. If you want to go nitpicking and looking through the internet and the web pages and articles and things, and everything will become halal for you, akhi. Everything. The 5 prayers will all become obligatory for you. Alcohol and pork shall become halal for you as well. You will find something everywhere. But that is not where we get our guidance from. Our guidance is from the Quran and the Sunnah. That's it. Anything else shall lead to misguidance. Then Allah Azza wa Jal follows up this verse. And this verse really breaks my heart, especially in light of the modern, you know, what's happening in today's world. وَعَدَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Allah promises those of you who believe and do good. لَيَسْتَخْلِفَنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَمَا اسْتَخْلَفَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Allah shall grant you authority in the land, just like He gave it to the people before you. وَلَيُمَكِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمْ الَّذِي ارْتَضَى لَهُمْ. And Allah shall allow the deen to establish all across the land. وَلَيُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ خَوْفِهِمْ أَمْنًا. And all of your fears shall be replaced with safety and security. The condition, يَعْبُدُونَنِي لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِي شَيْئًا. Now let's put that verse to the side and let's take a peek at the world today. Are we given authority over the land today? Is any Muslim government truly given authority over the land today? Or are we all, is the Muslim Ummah overall, puppets for you know those who are actually ruling the world, for the rich and the wealthy and the powerful who are ruling behind the scenes? So are we Do we find the religion of Islam well established across the land? Yes, there's many Muslims by name. But let's be completely honest. Can you truly say Islam is truly established around their land? وَلَيُبَدِّلَنَّهُمْ. And do we find safety and security around the Muslim countries? How come? Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, Allah is promising you, if you believe and you do good. So the answer is very heartbreaking. The majority of the ummah today does not fall underneath آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. That is the only explanation for what is happening today. And if you look back in the past, and subhanAllah, this is why it's so important for us to read history and learn in light of modern day. You know, nowadays, when you take a look at the political situation around the world and people are fearing, oh, is it going to be World War III, or, you know, the nukes, this country's got nukes, that country's got nukes, and, you know, everybody's going to be nuked and nuke this and nuke that. So let's take a look at the Sahaba 1,400 years ago. They had no nukes, no nothing. They barely had, they didn't even have what you call today a government, by the way. They didn't have today what you call a military force, a police force. Back in the day, the armies were just a volunteer. Like anybody who wishes to volunteer, you know what? Yalla khalas, bring your sword, bring your animal, come and fight. You know, in certain cases they were commanded to do it, but in many cases, there was no official military for the Sahaba. This is the point I'm trying to get to. And yet they fought against the most powerful empires, the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. You know, when you go and read about the conquest of the Persian Empire, when the Muslims, you know, first made their first approach into the lands of Persia, and they attacked a few people, and, you know, and there was a small fight, and they killed some people. You know what was the reaction of the Persians back in the day? They laughed. They literally laughed at the Muslims. They said, like, who are you guys? Like, what are you coming here to do? You know who we are? Do you guys know who you are? Like, you guys are a bunch of nobodies. Like, they told me, like, if you want some cash, you want $1 or $2, here, take some money and just go back on your way. They didn't even take them seriously. Because to them, they're just thinking, who is this backward civilization now coming to attack the greatest and mightiest empire in the world? Yet the Muslims continued on their way. And subhanallah, this is mind-boggling. Modern day historians, they don't even have a full explanation. All they can do is give you theories. How in the world? You know, the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire, they've been neck at neck. They've been on each other's throat for hundreds of years. And every decade or so, people would make predictions. Oh, you know, the Roman Empire is now growing powerful. They're going to defeat the Persians. And then after a while, the Persians are becoming more powerful. They're going to defeat the Romans. Nobody ever predicted that just a group of Bedouins, they don't even know how to read and write, uncivilized, uncultured, they're gonna come out of nowhere. And within a span of a few years, they're gonna wipe out the Persian Empire. They're gonna carve out the Roman Empire. And conquests to the east, conquests to the west, conquests all around the world. So, let's revisit our original question. Where are the nukes? Where is the military? Where is the technology? The enemy was superior in every single aspect against the Muslims in that regard. However, the Muslims back in the day, they had a strong faith in Allah Azza wa Jalla. آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And so Allah fulfilled His promise, and He made it come true. And He granted them authority across the entire earth. And He granted them peace and security and wealth and steadfastness. Scholars coming from the east, scholars coming from the west. You get Imam Al-Bukhari, you get an Imam from the east. All, subhanallah. Where is all of this today? This is what is lacking today. آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. So we have to bring this back into our lives. My dear parents, make your homes a nur for your children. Make your homes a place of guidance where your children can understand what is right from what is wrong, for what is good from what is evil. And they understand it, and they have pride in their Muslim identity. And for my dear Muslims, for my dear youth, realize that not every single trend you find out there is necessarily correct just because the majority of the people are doing it. The majority of people out there in the streets right now, they're not praying Taraweeh. They're not fasting Ramadan. They're not, sticking to whatever is halal and avoiding what is haram. That doesn't make it right. So just because the majority is doing it, that does not make it right. Just because I feel like something is right, and it doesn't really agree with the Quran, does also not make it right. So we have to understand this. And I'll just conclude with one final hadith of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where he says, "Kullu ummati, my entire ummah, shall enter Jannah illa man aba, except for those who reject it." So the Sahaba, they asked, Ya Rasulullah, and who would ever reject an offer like Jannah? Who would say no? So the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he summarized the entire lesson of today for us, and he says, "Man ata'ani dakhala al-jannah, wa man asani faqad aba." Those who obey me and they stick upon my sunnah, they shall enter Jannah. And those who disobey me and they follow their own path, they have refused to enter the Jannah. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to illuminate our hearts with nur, to allow us to see what is right from what is wrong, to keep us steadfast and to protect us from any kind of deviation. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant the ummah around the world steadfastness and authority over the land, and restore the peace and security over our all Muslim countries. Subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, wa qumu ila salatikum.